Hi everybody, welcome to part 6 of Monty's restoration. Now, as we all know, anything made of steel is going to go rusty if it's exposed to the elements, and the biggest part of any restoration is getting rid of the rust and doing a nice repaint. From Monty's point of view, having stood in a field in the Norfolk Moors for over 30 years, he's got more than his fair share of rust, and so the biggest part of my restoration is going to be cleaning all that rust off and getting the metal repaired and ready for a repaint. Now, there's various methods you can use for clearing off rust, and we're going to be trying all sorts of them. We'll start off with the most basic and obvious one, wire brush. Whether it's a hand brush or, like I'm using here, wire brush attached to a grinder, cleaning this brake rod off. It's quite effective, but it's mind-numbingly boring going up and down with the wire brush. As you can see, these brake levers have come up quite clean and nice. There's a couple of little corners need finishing off, and these brake rods, yeah, they've cleaned up well. This one's a bit funny, I've noticed. Someone's added an extra bit into the middle and made it about 2 inches longer, and I don't know why they would have done that. Anyway, once we've got them all cleaned, get a good coating of the old red oxide primer onto them, brushed well into the corners and all the cracks, and leave it all hanging up to dry. There we go. That's the best part of a morning's work there though, so it does take some time. One of the other methods I like, and I quite prefer it, is electrolysis. These back plates that I've just taken off, this is the rear one from that leaky hub. As you can see, it's covered in oil, it's got a bit of damage to sort out, and it's very, very rusty. So I like using the electrolysis bit. All you need is a big bucket with your electrolyte in it, in this case water and washing soda crystals, an old-fashioned battery charger. Smart charger's no good, it just needs to be a straightforward old-school battery charger. And obviously your two items to go in the pot, one to be cleaned and one a lump of old steel to act as a sacrificial anode. I started off with a bit of rusty plate here, but I swapped it later for a nice clean bit of oil drum. Both go into the tank. I've got a bit of threaded bar attached to that back plate to keep my electrical connection, the crocodile clip, out of the water. Negative lead goes onto the piece to be cleaned, that becomes your cathode, and the positive goes onto your sacrificial piece of steel. After a few hours in the bin, you can see it's working there, all that brown rust floats to the surface. 24 hours in there and it comes out looking like this. All the old army paint's peeled off quite nicely, and although it looks like a wet mess, that's going to dry up and clean off quite nice. We turn it over, have a look at the other side. This is where most of that paint's come from. It just slides off with a scraper underneath it, revealing shiny metal, and any rust that was there, you can see it's already turned black, and that's where it's been treated. As for our sacrificial anode, yeah, this is where all the rust has gone. It's now stuck to the front of this, but you can scrape it off and send it round for 2 or 3 goes in the pot before it's absolutely ruined. On our back plate then, once we've dried it off, quick wipe over with the wire brush just to get the rest of the dirt off, wash it off with some brake and clutch cleaner, and that is ready for a paint job. That's come up rather well, that. I'm quite pleased. After a week of doing bits and pieces in the pot, our sacrificial anode has well and truly been sacrificed. You can see it's actually starting to disintegrate now, and it's actually worn itself right through, but it is only a piece of old oil drum, so we'll get a nice new shiny bit and that can carry on the good work. As for our back plate, now it's had a coat of paint, that looks very nice. Yeah, we like that. That's one for the on the pile of finished, waiting for its top coat. Dunking stuff in an acid bath or an electrolysis tank is okay for the small bits, but what about the big bits like the chassis and the axles and what have you? I've looked at sandblasting, but I've been quoted some really silly prices to come out and have a go. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get with that. I don't want to pay the money that people are asking anyway. I've seen a lot of adverts for the wet sandblasting attachment, the thing you put on your pressure washer, and I wanted to see how that went. So I've got myself one of these little gadgets. I've already got a big pressure washer. It fits onto the end of your pressure washer lance, and then it feeds sand from a bucket through an extended hose as you're pressure washing. The idea being the water pressure blasts the sand onto your metalwork and cleans the rust off. Well, I spent all morning messing about with it and trying different things, and frankly I couldn't get it to work properly. It started off trying to suck too much sand up at first, which just blocked the hose pipe up. I sort of got round that idea by restricting the flow of the sand and managed to get some sand actually coming out of the end of the pressure washer. But did it achieve much? It blew some paint off, but then the pressure washer was doing that anyway. Like I say, I spent most of the morning on it, half a bucket of sand, God knows how many gallons of water, and did I achieve much? Well, not a lot. I'm quite disappointed with it. I don't think we'll be going on any further with that. Just a quick word on health and safety while we're here. When you're starting the pressure washer, it's a good idea to make sure there's enough room between it and the diesel tank on the tipper. Otherwise, you tend to smash your watch to pieces and then do unspeakable things to the back of your hand. I won't repeat the words I said at the time. I still feel like saying them now. In the meantime, son Phil's been doing his own experiment with some mad scientist mix of chemicals. I'm not quite sure what goes into it. He knows. It's citric acid, sodium carbonate, sodium lauryl, something or other. I do know if you don't get it mixed up right, you get an adverse reaction. But anyway, it seems to work, so I'm going to try it with these brake springs. All you do, dunk them in, a bit of string tied on there so I can fish them back out without actually putting my hands into that dodgy mix, and you leave it for 24 hours or so. There we are, 24 hours later, something appears to have happened. It's got a load of scum on the top. When we fish the springs out, I've got to say, they do look cleaner, even though they're a bit wet and sticky with that chemical all over them. Still, we'll get that washed off and we'll see what they look like. There we go, comparison. There's a set that haven't been cleaned and the set that have been cleaned. I've got to say, that clean set looks quite impressive, so they're not too bad. Anyway, back to the wire wheel, nut and bolt restoration. You've got to restore these nuts and bolts. You can't just go buying new ones. These big boys are £8.40 a throw. So clamp it in a pair of mole grips and off you go on the wire brush. Once again, mind-numbingly boring, but you got to do it. Once you've cleaned all the dirt off, run the nuts down a tap, clean the rust out the inside of the threads, just give that a squirt of glue there. Spin it down the thread, that cleans all the gunge out the inside. And just make sure the thread's okay. Clean the gunge off, wipe it back up. That's the nut done. And the bolt gets the same treatment. Squirt of the old spray grease, wind it back down. Just cleans the rust out the inside of the thread, ready to put the new nuts on. There we go, that's one done. Wash it back on. Check that nut. Yeah, that's a good one, on the pile. And off we go for the next one. Again though, it's time consuming. There's over an hour's work gone in here, and I've only cleaned 8 of them. There's another 16 to do just on the hubcaps. These brake swivel pins, they're a different kettle of fish altogether. They should have a little split pin in the top. Some of them, the split pin's missing and it's full of dirt, and others have still got half a split pin stuck in them. They should be secured with one of these slotted lock nuts, and you put your split pin in through the slots. But a lot of them, on Monty anyway, have been replaced with plastic nylock nuts. The unfortunate bit is the thread's not long enough to fit into the nylock, so they haven't achieved a great deal. And some of the nuts are the wrong thread anyway, and they've just been crammed on. So we've got to clean the threads up, drill the split pins out, and fit this nice new set of slotted lock nuts. So back in the vise, Carefully drill the old split pin out. I say carefully, they're only thin, that's a 2mm drill bit that, so it's dead easy to break. So you've got to be a bit careful with it. Once you've got the old pin out, run the drill up and down a bit, clean the hole out. There, fresh split pin, there's my split pin, fresh split pin, there you go, that fits in, lovely. Like we did with the hubcap bolts, quick tidy the thread up, the old tap and die. Some of these pins took a bit of a smack when I was actually stripping the linkage down, so the top of the thread's a bit burred, but the die over the top straightens it all out. Make sure that's on straight. Yeah, there we go. Run that up and down a couple of times, just cleans all the rust out and cleans off any burrs that I might have caused when I was taking the pin out. Spin it up and down a couple of times. There we go. Again, bit of spray grease on just to protect it. One shiny new nut. There we go. Oh yeah, look at that, lovely. Quick check with the spanner, make sure it goes all the way down. Yeah, nice and free. Split pin in, job done. There we go. And on to the next one. You spot the shiny new wristwatch there and the big plaster up the wrist from earlier on. Yeah, that's going to take a while to heal. So there you go. We've actually made a start on cleaning some of the stuff up. Now, thanks for watching. Hope you're still enjoying these videos. And if you haven't clicked the like and subscribe box, click it now. We'll see you all in part 7. Bye then.